episode of BFR. And from now on, we're going to call it BFR because who can actually say booze-fueled reviews?
Much easier, yeah.
I don't even know what's going on with
Yeah.
that. Anyway, we do a little show here about reviewing albums from our favorite bands, least favorite bands are kind of in the middle. Tonight we have something really good. Chris, what are we doing tonight?
Do we have something really good tonight?
No, not really.
Well, tonight, what we're going to do tonight, it's a little different for us tonight. We're gonna take it outside of the realm of metal, and we're gonna do one of the most classic rock bands that are still out there touring and playing today.
Yep.
Kansas.
Diversity.
These guys have diversity. These guys have been around for damn near 50 years now, and just and playing concerts, releasing albums, and they're still pretty damn relevant today. And we're going to get into why they're relevant today.
Yep.
But they're still around. We still love them because they shaped a lot of the music you're still hearing today.
Yep, definitely a little bit out of my wheelhouse here with the classic rock, progressive rock. But I gotta admit, I enjoyed going through this band's discography, and
Of course I did, because
yeah.
I'm kind of the progressive rock guy. But tonight we're going to bring you Kansas. We're going to do the essential albums by Kansas. But since most of Kansas's albums were very close to one another,
amazingly
they're
similar, very consistent. These guys,
very consistent band. We're not gonna run down their top 5 or their whatever. We're going to throw in their essential albums, but we're not going to do it in any particular order because the albums were so close that we think all of them kind of rest in the same place.
Exactly right. So don't expect to see little numbers up here, number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. We're just going to put them up there and tell you all about them.
The first album on our list is 2016's Prelude Implicit. Let me tell you a thing or two about this album. Just 1 or 2 things. Then you can talk about a thing or two also.
I know a thing or two.
It was 16 years in between studio albums from Kansas.
It's amazing.
You think of the time period, you think of the 90s and the 2000s, and where does Kansas have a place in that?
You'd think they kind of don't.
And they really didn't for a
proved
long
it.
time. I guess the real reason, I'm not gonna try and throw Steve Walsh under the bus here, because Steve Walsh is one of the greatest rock singers of all time.
Which I found out through this.
The guy's kind of a vocal god.
He's
Wait. All right, now I'm good. I can continue on now. So it was. What? Why are you looking at me like that? With such hatred in your eyes for what I'm doing right now. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna breathe. Okay, I'm good now. I can't actually breathe. I smoked too much. But so this album, after 16 years of Kansas not existing, and Steve Walsh, as I mentioned before we went off on a tangent there, Steve Walsh is the reason really why Kansas kind of didn't exist for a long time, because he was one of the last remaining songwriters for Kansas, and so he basically said, I don't want to write any more original material. I'm done. I think I've written what I can write, and I'm done. So the band didn't record an album for 16 years because of that.
But they toured.
They toured constantly. Like Kansas was always a touring band. They never left the road really. But you can't tour the same songs for the rest of your career and expect people to continue to be into what you're doing. You have to have new material to offer.
Right. So the second he finally
Yeah.
got out, what happened next?
Yeah. The second, literally the second, that second that Steve Walsh retired from music, even though he did have a solo album out since, but that's neither here nor there.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Kids. He didn't laugh that time. I really wanted him to laugh at the kids thing. Because there are some of you out there.
I was working on a thought of my own, and I missed it. Sorry. Say it again.
Kids! Huh? This is why it works. That's right. Kids are always funny.
Kids.
And usually goofy looking and they smell funny. That's a thing we know. You might know that too. Anyway.
We both had some experience with kids.
If you're a Kansas fan, you're certainly old enough to know that kids smell fucking retarded half the time.
Probably have half a dozen of your own.
And especially if you live in Kansas. Probably.
Which is right in the middle of the United States, yeah?
Yeah, the heartland of America.
The Bible Belt.
Which kind of brings up an interesting point, even though we rambled a little bit already. You know, Kansas, one of the first progressive rock bands really in America that ever got noticed. There wasn't. They kind of spearheaded this whole American prog rock thing.
Total surprise to me. I didn't know.
In Europe, you had, you know, like Genesis and Yes, and I mean Black Sabbath, and they're not progressive, but like all the biggest bands that were coming out at the time were coming from Europe. And Kansas comes out, and they're doing like this dark, moody, progressive rock that
Long songs.
that the Europeans were doing. This is like something that we didn't know over here, which is probably why Kansas didn't get noticed for
A bit.
quite a few years. Quite a few years. But more about this album.
I really like this one.
You really do
This one.
like
This one.
this one.
We went through every single album they ever. How many did they have? Albums.
14, 15 studio albums, somewhere in there.
This one's really good.
Yeah, I mean it's modern production, which always helps.
Yes, I do have a bit of a preference for modern production, and we go back and listen to albums made in the 70s. There's something a little bit missing. It's a little underproduced sounding. It's the best they can do at the time. It's not their fault. But then anything that happens like after like the 90s, even the early 80s, it sounds so much better. They honed the craft.
Right.
And
Yeah. And this
scored well.
2016, this like the height of the digital age. I mean,
Yeah.
and maybe the digital age ended a little bit before that, 'cause we're starting to go back into
The analog age.
these thingies.
Notice nothing's coming out of the pumpkin tonight.
The pumpkin's empty-ish, but look at this fucking thing.
That's an album right there.
That's what a record album looks like, you young fucks.
Vinyl.
This is an album. There's 2 records in here even. Because there's so much music, you can't fit it on one little plastic thing. You have to have 2 plastic things. Look in there and you see them? You see them?
I dare any of you to try to fit that into a CD player.
And send us your videos. We're going to use it.
Right.
And make fun of you for doing that.
Don't use his records.
This
buy
is
your own.
it. Because vinyl has come back now all of a sudden.
Yeah, crazy.
And sorry, Bob. And his name Bob. Whatever. He's a member of the family now.
Good Bob.
But
Sorry.
yeah. So I'm gonna let me reaching off screen like a true fucking professional to grab a chair like a fat man would do. That was that album. It was the first album with what's the new singer's name?
Ronnie James Platts.
That doesn't sound right-ish.
Ronnie Platt?
Ronnie Platt
That's
sounds
it,
right.
right.
Ronnie Platt sounds right. And I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea where that guy came from.
No, he's really good.
I don't know if he had another band before Kansas found
I
him,
have absolutely no idea.
or where he came from.
Guy
But
can
he's nailing it.
Can
Like
sing.
he's great on this album, and he was great on the tour. Like he was doing a lot of the classic songs from Carrying the Wayward Son and stuff like that. He's like the classic Kansas tracks, and he was hitting the fucking highs, like kind of like Steve Walsh hasn't been able to do for a while now. His voice kind of went to hell a little bit. And
Happens.
I think it's probably part of why he retired in the first place. He knew he couldn't deliver what the fans wanted anymore.
Might be the entire reason why.
And good, like respect. If
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
if he realized he couldn't give his best anymore, then
Why keep doing it?
then mad respect for Steve Walsh. Like Steve Walsh needed mad respect because he's also he already gets mad respect for me anyway. Because
Oh no, I've come to respect this band from start to finish now. I'm not much of a classic rock guy. I get into progressive stuff a little bit. But I never really gave these guys a chance. I mean, outside of 1 or 3 songs that are, they're really, really great songs. But listen to every song, every album, and they're good. They're good.
Consistently good.
Consistent.
And consistently bad. Because every album has its duds, too.
It does. It does, unfortunately. There's no perfect albums here.
But when they're on, they're on.
They're on. They're right on. This album was pretty close to on all the way through.
This album
very,
is
very,
it's
very
very on. And I'm glad they finally decided to get back into recording.
Yep.
And I guess they might have a new album at some point, because they had a multi-record deal with this album.
I hope they do.
Because it did really well, which is, how about that? While you guys were all sitting around fucking listening to your MP3s, and you're shut your hole. Listen to your MP3s, and you're downloading shit, and you don't get an album cover anymore, because who the fuck looks at album covers anymore? Like back when music was actually an art form and people gave a shit.
Right.
Which they don't anymore.
You can't sell an album based on an album cover anymore because nobody cares.
Right. But this album came out, and all of a sudden, Kansas was a thing again. Like, they charted high in 3 or 4 separate charts just in America. Mm-hmm. Probably the highest charting album they've had since the classic lineup, going back to 1980. Like, probably the highest album they've had since then.
Yeah, these guys put out another album. I mean, I'm a fan now, and
You're a fan?
I'm a fan now. I like him. Yes, I like him. I've been turned.
Converted.
Yep, I would definitely listen to the next album.
Good, because that's coming.
And I'm confident that it would be very good.
That's coming. We're going to do that.
Okay.
And we're not going to do it tonight.
Because it doesn't exist.
But it's probably all we have to say about this album, really. We don't want to get too lengthy and crazy with some of our videos. Because we tend to do that. We tend to get a couple beers in us.
Rambling happens when you're drinking.
True story.
Hopefully you're drinking right now.
We're still drinking, but we're trying to... Oh, shit. No, we're still drinking. We're not trying to do a fucking thing.
Were you actually going to say we're trying to cut back?
No!
Oh, thank
God.
God.
There's no cutting back. There's no cutting back. Oops! We fucked up. We're sorry we fucked up. We were trying to bring a little better video, a little better audio quality to you tonight. New camera. We had no fucking idea. It shut off, and now we look like a bunch of assholes. Well, Bernie does.
What?
Yeah, you do. But we pretty much discussed this album as much as we can. It's a very important album. It's kind of a rebirth for Kansas.
Yeah, hoping they continue from here and do more of this.
I hope they continue from here. Because he's got her pretty badass, in case you didn't know.
I've been learned.
You've been learned.
I've learned it now.
Good job. Good job with that. Thanks. Good job. So, me and Helen Keller are going to move on to the next album now. Oh, you thought that was funny? See? Look at him laughing. Maybe I'll cut that later, or maybe I won't. That was the Prelude Implicit. Check it out. On to the next. The next album on the list is 1995's Freaks of Nature. I know a lot of you are not going to agree with this in any way whatsoever, but it's a really good fucking album.
It's actually not bad. I liked it.
It's another one of those 90s issues where a band had to learn how to struggle into a new musical landscape where they were no longer relevant at all.
Yeah, well, I was kind of worried because we're talking kind of grunge age here, and I was really worried when I listened to this that they were going to take on some of that and kind of try to incorporate like everybody else did in that time frame, and to poor effect, I might add. They didn't.
Nope.
They didn't. They kind of stuck true to their guns.
They were still Kansas.
They were still Kansas in 1995.
And this. I mean, not only were they Kansas on this album, but they were they had a fucking violin player again.
Not too shabby. It's there in like every song.
Yeah, every song.
From start to finish.
Every song.
Except
After,
for maybe one.
the title track. And the title track.
Yeah, they blew off the
Yeah,
violinist in the title
Yeah,
track.
fuck the violin player. We don't need him on this one. But it was a completely wrong time for a band like Kansas to be releasing an album, and it was, I think, seven or 8 years since their previous album.
Yeah, it took some time in between these. The last one we told you about, this one, and then before that, when they were pretty steady.
Yeah,
Before that,
yeah. And they did this. They did this thing right here. This fucking hairy dude.
they dropped this.
You want to see the hairy dude? Beside that fucking hairy dude, look at him. Look at what he's doing with his hair. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. That's Bernie.
Yep.
That was Bernie like 3 days ago. He shaved his face and it
Just for you.
yeah.
Just for you.
Only for you.
Show him
Only
that guy.
that guy.
No, that.
The patch guy. Hey, if you don't know that guy, Rich Williams,
The birth of pirate metal.
he is a patch thing. He's still cool. So shut up. Don't make fun of him.
Not. I like pirate metal.
But, kids, that's all I have to say when I fucking run out of ideas. I just say kids, because it's funny.
It's
But, it didn't chart anywhere. It didn't chart, nobody gave a shit about it.
the first and last time that they had an album that did not Billboard chart in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That one. But,
Yep.
hey, people are not so smart sometimes. 'Cause it's actually pretty good.
The songs are heavier. That's like one of the things I can say about this is, it's not a metal album, like
No,
what
not by-
like what you guys might
Not by a-
expect.
Not by a long shot.
us to be
No,
doing right
but
now.
It's the guitars are, they have a good tone.
Yeah.
It's pretty, not heavy.
It's
I mean,
heavy for Kansas.
Oh, it's a lot heavy for
Heavy for Kansas. And it's well produced.
Very well produced, which you'll see through their entire catalog.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an album that's not well produced.
Yeah.
Even back in
Yeah.
the 70s, they
Steve Walsh's
they
voice
knew.
on this one may have been a little bit off.
Meh.
A little bit off. There's a quick story I have with that. I couldn't track this down, so if Steve Walsh is watching, which he
Probably is not.
absolutely does not give a fuck about me.
Or your opinion.
I remember reading a story, whether it be in Rolling Stone or some other magazine or news item at the time, that during the recording of this album, or right before the recording of this album, Steve Walsh was so heavy into cocaine and just smoking fucking pot every day and just being a guy from Kansas, basically.
Pot and cocaine.
He was being a guy from Kansas. That's what they do in
He's trying
Kansas.
to even out.
If you're from Kansas, let us know if that's what you do all day. Like smoke pot and
Do coke.
and yeah, suck things up your face. But I remember a news item of some kind where he wrecked his car like during the recording of this album or shortly there before and got like arrested or like busted for cocaine and he's in later years now admitted that like yeah, cocaine fucked up my voice, drinking beer fucked up my voice. He's the first one to admit that he basically ruined his instrument by doing all the shit that everybody was doing in the 80s, except for me. You were fucking, I don't know what you were doing in the 80s. Like just being old,
I think
basically.
I was sleeping.
Like, or being old.
I was sleeping.
Like you were like 73 years old in the 80s.
In the 80s.
In the 80s, yeah.
73
Yeah,
years
you were disgusting even then.
Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't drinking beer though yet.
That's true.
Maybe once.
Or once?
Mm-hmm.
Like for 6 years straight? Or
In the 80s?
yeah.
What was it, youth?
A ute? What's a ute? I might have fucked up that whatever. That's good. Fred Gwynn. Look it up. Look it up. I'm gonna leave a link below, but I'm not.
For Fred.
Just get curious and look things up for a change.
Yeah, you don't need us for everything. Stop
You
being,
know, we can't
stop being so dependent.
we can't feed you your entire
You
life.
can't hold your hand the whole time.
We also didn't talk about this album for a minute. So let me tell you.
We should probably.
Let me tell you one or two more things about this album. I think the Hope Once Again is one of the ballads in this album. Mm-hmm. Great fucking ballad. Out of place in the 90s, but a great ballad. I think it was released as a single. But like we said, nothing on this album charted. Like any singles, anything they were trying to do at this point didn't.
Absolutely nobody cared.
No, they didn't.
Nobody cared.
And it's a shame because the album is a solid album, just from a dinosaur band that nobody wanted to listen to in 1995.
I blame grunge.
I blame grunge for a lot of things. I'm sure we'll probably discuss that at some point. How we blame grunge for
Most of our hate.
everything that
Most
ever.
of our hate.
But guess what? We're also gonna fucking bucket grunge.
We are.
We're also gonna do. Look at what I did. I said bucket. Look what I did.
You did. That's what we call it.
That was a special thing. Now you know.
You're in now.
But you're not. 'Cause we're not gonna talk about it for the rest of the episode.
A super secret code word for our rating system.
Yeah.
He said it. I'm not going to say it again because I'm hoping you forgot.
Nope. Yep. Don't say it. But we're gonna discuss. We're gonna go into Nirvana.
We will.
And Soundgarden and probably
Yeah,
the
right.
Smashing Pumpkins and Alice in Chains.
Alice
Like,
in Chains is pretty good.
we're gonna hit that subgenre at 1.2. We're not quite there yet. Maybe a week or two. We'll get into some grunge.
It's on the list.
We'll get into some grunge. But guess what? This
That's
is
it.
not grunge.
No. And thank God.
It's grungy. It's oh my god. He's like your twin brother. Did you even look at behind you? Did you even look at the fucking thing staring at the back of your bald head? He's your brother. Look at him. All right. So we'll invite Bernie's brother next time. That guy. He's gonna bring that lamb or that sheepuses, whatever's in his hand there.
He's a sheep.
He still has it, right? Look at that thing.
Oh my God, he is
Look at
holding
the eyes in
something.
that thing. That's a creature.
Wow.
That's a creature.
Wow. I never noticed that.
So next time Bernie's brother is going to bring that creature, and maybe he can talk more eloquently about Kansas albums or any albums. That's the thing that might happen.
Not that. I mean, this is one brother, but I have another brother. So just to clear that up, that other brother's kind of pretty cool. This is the weird brother. Just in case.
The circus brother.
Yeah, I don't want anybody thinking that my other brother, the normal brother, is that guy.
You have normal brothers?
One.
Oh,
Just one.
debatable. Debatable. And if you're watching right now,
That was for you, Rick.
oh no, you name dropped him. Oh no. Now the world knows who he is.
There's lots of Ricks in the world.
That's all we got. We're gonna keep drinking for a while, and we're gonna keep giving you some more nonsense. So this was 95's album, Freaks of Nature. We fucking like it. It's a great album. It's completely outside the scope of what most Kansas fans will think is a good album,
Yep.
because it's not their classic stuff. Completely different, but still very good.
It works.
They're musicians.
It works.
They're musicians.
Magicians.
So magicians.
Pull this off and be pretty good.
Yes. There it was. Freaks of Nature. Check it out below. Now here's the next one. The next album on our list. Power. Power.
Power.
Is it Power? We don't know.
It's not power metal.
But it's 1986, and the world had changed in 1986 for any bands that came out of the 70s, like the classic lineups of any 70s band. By the time 1986 rolled around, they were doing something completely fucking different because you couldn't be what you were in the 70s in the 80s anymore.
Right. And I'm a child of the 80s, and the 80s are like dripping with cheese.
That they
in
are.
the musical category.
That they are.
And that's why I like this album so much. It's got some serious 80s. You drinking firewater?
What happened? Continue. Continue.
Sorry, I was distracted. You okay?
No.
No.
Nope.
No.
That's-
Neither one of us are okay.
that's a
I'm not-
surefire way to kill
I
your
don't-
liver.
I don't want any of that.
What do you think? I think he agreed.
What's his name?
That's what's that guy's? What's the Gorton Fisherman?
Oh,
He's the Gorton Fisherman.
he makes those frozen fish things that you heat up.
Those things, yeah. Fish things.
Fish things.
Fish things.
Frozen fish things.
Fish
You can
things.
Find, I don't know, they still make those, do
Don't.
they? Long John Silver's took that over. That's what they serve you now, so don't go there.
Oh, okay, good times. Well,
We just lost a sponsor.
that was disgusting.
Sorry.
And don't sue us, Gortons. But
Or Long John Silver.
feel free to continue with your train of thought if you remember what your train of thought
I
actually
was talking about how there's just certain cheese about the 80s music that I really, really like. And unlike the previous album where, they didn't get into the grunge thing because it was a thing, they kind of did take on some of that 80s pop sound.
They did.
The production is 80s, the sound is 80s.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm dumb, but I like it.
No, it's good. I mean, it's not only. I mean, the song. They wrote some great songs in this album. It was it the Cans so 5 years earlier? No, they were in a totally different place in their career at this point. But they really were writing for an '80s audience.
Yeah,
and
it worked.
They didn't fail.
Nope.
And they still had the musicianship of Kansas.
Yeah, because you can't take that away. They're good at what they do.
Right. I mean, Phil Ehart. If I haven't name dropped Phil Ehart yet, the drummer and founding member of Kansas, Phil Ehart. He's still there to this day. Phil Ehart is sick. Like this guy does shit that I can't even imagine doing.
This guy's a drummer, so he ought to know.
A pretending drummer, pretender. Yeah, that's exactly. I air drum like a son of a bitch.
I can't even do that right.
Like really drumming? No, I fucked that all up. But Phil Ehart, this guy. I mean, in the '70s. When you were thinking of like your progressive rock bands and whatnot, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis had Phil Collins drumming, and before he did In the Air Tonight, before he was Phil Collins, he was a sick, amazing drummer.
Before the '80s.
Again, definitely, yeah. Before the '80s, and his gated drum sound came in and then kind of reinvented the '80s. I guess.
Actually, it kind of did.
Didn't Phil Collins kind of like create a thing that made the '80s there for a minute, or for a decade?
And it's still used today in lesser amounts.
Right.
But yeah, it's still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm sorry, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the album. I mean, I'm a big time Kansas fan. I'm not gonna lie, kids. Why do they keep calling you kids? Most of you are probably like 74 fucking years old. Like you have 3 teeth in your fucking head, and you're drinking Metamucil and you're eating Spam every goddamn day, and I'm calling you kids.
Spam?
That's what I do. Well, yeah, Spam.
Why Spam?
'Cause you can gum Spam. You
can.
don't need teeth to eat Spam.
I would fry it.
Well, you can still gum it.
No, once you fry it, it gets a little bit crispy. I put it in a toaster. Take your Spam, here, listen, culinary tip right here, in the middle of Kansas review. Take the Spam, cut it long ways, right? And put it in the toaster. You're gonna cut it long ways, but you're gonna put it in the toaster lengthwise. So otherwise you're not gonna be able to grab it.
I guess.
Don't try to get it out of there with anything metal, like metal tongs, a fork, anything like
Heavy
that.
metal.
You can use heavy metal.
Prog metal?
Hmm?
Prog metal?
You can use prog metal.
Okay.
You can use prog metal.
Okay, good.
It's the equivalent of putting the toaster in the tub with you. Don't do that.
That's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing. You can get shot across the room or worse.
Yeah. We need viewers, so don't do that.
Right.
'Cause
Especially
if you're not here, we're not here.
If you're watching right now, please don't do that because we need you.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we just drink alone and talk about
Spam.
power and spam.
How boring is it to talk about spam alone?
Right? Yeah. Well, how boring is it to talk about spam on a YouTube channel? So maybe we just suck at this.
Let us
whole
know
thing.
how boring it is that we just talked about spam.
Post us your favorite spam recipes.
Right. It's flavors. They get flavors now.
And we'll never talk about them
Now
or
we're done with spam.
care about them,
We're
but
done with spam.
spam. Sue us, spam. But power.
Okay, proceed.
Power spam.
Power spam.
Power spam. This album, it charted really well.
Yeah.
It charted. And by really well, I mean like top 30, top 40 maybe. But it was a band that had completely fallen apart in the early '80s. You know, once the original lineup broke up, and then things got even weirder, and they got a new singer, Steve Walsh left, they got a new singer in the band, and that whole thing just sucked ass. Like nobody cared about that. They still had a couple hits,
Yep.
but they were a very different band. They pulled out the violin player. He's no longer there. It's like, oh, what the fuck now do we do? So like 2 or 3 years after the album before this,
Which I liked.
all of a sudden this happens, and again, completely different, but it's the original singer, and everybody wanted to hear Steve Walsh back in Kansas because he is the voice of Kansas. And for the most part, it worked. Steve Morse.
You know that name.
Steve Morse came into this band
I know that name.
on this album. He was from the Dixie Dregs. I don't know if anybody of you follow that kind of stuff.
By name alone, you should know.
Yeah. I mean, Dixie Dregs have a pretty big following.
Yeah.
But he came into here.
Any of you guitar people
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
know.
And he was only there for a few years, like this album and the following album. Then he left and went and joined Deep Purple, oddly enough. And he's been with Deep Purple for like 25 years now.
And there you go.
And guess what? Deep Purple also
Not bad.
also not fucking
Not
shabby.
bad. Not
Guess
bad at
what?
all.
Guess what?
What?
That's another episode too.
They have a storied history.
We're gonna do like all 312 albums of Deep Purple for an episode. We are.
Gonna need a lot more beer.
We're gonna do that.
A lot more beer.
But so this album happened. It happened, and it was
It's pretty good. Not what you'd expect.
no produced extremely well.
As everything they've ever done.
Right.
But this one did definitely sound very good. They
Right.
did a great job on production.
Mhm.
Captured that 80s feel.
Yeah. Oh, they.
They nailed it.
They nailed that.
actually nailed it in 83 with the previous album,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But, they blended right in to the 80s.
And there's.
pretty good album.
I mean, I don't know if we have to go into it with this album or not. Maybe we'll get to it at some point down the road. When Steve Walsh left Kansas initially, he formed a band called Streets. Not the Sabotage album from last week's episode.
No.
But he formed a band called Streets with some pretty fucking great musicians who later on went to join Kansas. Story for another time, if we ever get to that story.
It's
But-
all tied together.
Yeah, everything's kind of tied
The
together.
whole band incest thing.
Yeah.
You like to
Yeah.
talk about.
yeah, exactly. They're all connected in some way. They all bring other members from other bands. Just kind of like you and I have done for many years, and even before we had started playing together. And we pulled other members of other bands that
Yep.
we knew from previous bands.
Yep,
and
I
brought
know this
them in.
guy. We're gonna bring this one
Yeah.
in, and you know this one. This one's all right.
Yep.
And that's how it happens.
I think that's kind of how it works. Even when you're major label classic bands, I think that you
They do that. That's what they do.
like everybody kind of knows everybody, and you bring in like talent. You know who's talented. You bring them in. You try them out. If it works, it works, and you do what you do for as long as you can, just to get another hit record in the hopes of that one more hit record.
Yes.
Not a hit record, but still a hit record. This album did really well. I think Kansas was kind of set for maybe coming back. Then shit happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of ruined their career, and it was no fault of their own. And we're not going to discuss that album, which I would love to, 'cause it's a great album. But the album after this was upstaged by Tiffany, basically, and their record label got rid of them because they were an older band
Right.
and weren't a hit-making band anymore. And stuff like Tiffany
Sorry, excuse me.
was, oh my lord. Could you maybe be a little bit louder next time?
I can't control ice.
My god. I hate you.
Everyone does. I'm truly hateable. Anyway, continue. We're talking about Tiffany.
Yeah. Well, oh, are we?
You were.
I know at least one or two people that we know that will really enjoy the Tiffany reference,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
But apart from that, the album after this was also excellent with the same lineup. The musicianship was top notch, production was top notch, and the record label they cut them. They basically shit on it. The tour was cut. The album had no promotion whatsoever, and I think it really ended Kansas's career. When I don't think that Kansas should have had that point in time where all of a sudden they were so not relevant that a record label just said "fuck you" and "forget you." You know.
No, the good thing is that the story changed at the end, and
It did.
we're all good now.
It did change at the end, and thank God for that. And thank God that Kansas is still relevant, and I've seen them a dozen times. Do you see across my fat boobies? What? Really? Why do you have to make? Why do you laugh every time I say I'm fat? I find it so offensive. I find it so offensive. But boobies.
You know why.
Boobies, Kansas.
They must be so proud if they're watching Kansas. I hope you're watching Kansas.
I've seen them so many times, and they never fail to put on a good show. They're still consummate professionals. Every show sounds great. It looks great. They're still putting on a show from the '70s with better sound, but the same songs that we loved, growing up in Kansas. So.
Yep.
So I guess that's really all we have to say about Power. It was...
Yeah, give it a try. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's good.
And it might be a little difficult maybe to find it, because I don't even know if it's in print anymore. I mean, and it's never been remastered.
Just go on any of your streaming apps. I'm sure it's probably on.
Those exist. Those exist.
You can do it. Even YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, don't stop watching us. Don't stop watching us right now.
No, this album is not as good as us.
It's not as important as finishing what we're going to do next.
Yeah, as what
we're
doing
done,
right now.
Well, nothing's that important.
Because we are that good.
We are good. So, but when this is over, then you can go ahead and search YouTube for Power.
And you find it, give it a shot.
Yep.
It's worth it. It's in our essentials because it's a very important part of their history, and you need to hear it. Form your own opinion.
Yeah. And actually, let us know. Like, you can comment on what's going on here.
Yeah.
Everything we've done so far, this album, what's coming next. Let us know what you think.
Yep. Tell us what you think. Put it in the comments. We'll read it. We'll probably respond to it because we have a lot of opinions on a lot of things.
And nothing better to do.
And nothing better to do. And if you catch us when we're sober, well, then we're not going to answer you at all because the fuck being sober.
That's like a shot of dark there.
Yeah. Piss on sober. So, guess what? Guess what, fans? And I call you fans because the three of you are really enjoying this right now. Guess what? Fans.
Fan.
We're done with this album.
Yes.
We're not done drinking.
Nope.
And we have some more for you
Stay
coming
tuned.
up right now. Okay, here we are again. After another camera change.
Hope this one looks okay.
Oh,
We're having a rough night.
we're sorry we fucked this up so much, but literally, everything about modern technology is fucking stupid. But what is
We have backup after backup after backup.
this? Yes, we came prepared.
We actually have another backup after this in case this one fails.
Yeah, we came prepared. We just didn't expect to have to switch cameras.
No, you never expect this type of failure.
Yeah. Well, with us, I think it should be expected, maybe.
That's why we brought extras.
But so all of our extras are here, and you know what else is here? Fucking Point of No Return from 1977. Point of No Return, and this is we didn't do this in any order whatsoever, really, but we sort of did. We sort of did.
Planned it a little bit. There's no numbers. We didn't have a big number 2 up here, but probably should be. So
To consider this album anything less than absolutely essential would not do this band justice, because this is the pinnacle really of this band, and the pinnacle is a Kansas song. I made a pun. You didn't understand it, but I don't care because I made that happen, and it works for me.
we can move past the pun that I didn't get. That some of you hopefully did.
The pinnacle.
So hope you're laughing out there right now.
But
Puns are funny.
this is their absolute classic era. This is when they were having hits all the fucking time. Everybody was paying attention to what this band was doing. They were on, I mean, not MTV because they predated MTV,
Right, this is late 70s.
but they were everywhere. I mean, the world tours that were doing huge. The albums were selling millions and millions of copies.
4, in fact.
This one sold 4.
This one.
And guess what? In 1977, that's
lot of albums.
not a shabby amount of records,
Not bad at all.
because that's all you had back then.
They did well for
Was
themselves.
records. You didn't
Right.
have. You might have cassettes.
You
but-
needed a physical copy.
right.
A record counts as much as a cassette.
Right.
It's all good.
Well, I sip upon my hearty beverage, and he reached toward you for a moment.
Don't be afraid. He's not really going to touch any of you.
This thing is what we're talking about.
Right?
Right here. Point no return. I'm covering the parts where my dog chewed the shit out of him because he's an asshole head.
He likes classics. He likes the
He
classics.
thinks they're tasty, apparently.
That's how dogs appreciate things. They eat them.
But so yeah, I'm behind on my record collection right now because this isn't okay. But what's inside is okay.
And not chewed up by a dog.
And not chewed up by a dog. The record's fine. The record's fine.
Lucky.
I mean,
Good thing they didn't make these circular. The album covers.
yeah.
Because if they had, then he probably would have chewed through the record itself.
And that's not an okay
But
thing.
but they foresaw this when they started making records, and decided to put the circular record inside of a square.
Is that what happened?
Container.
They knew dogs would get hungry one day and
Well, whoever-
fuck up your record?
Whoever came up with this idea clearly had a dog.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. But
It's history. Just look it up. But there it is.
there it is. There it is again. And I mean, the I can't say enough about this album because the album itself is just it's fucking phenomenal. It's fucking phenomenal. Point No Return was a huge hit. Everybody knows it. It's still on the radio every goddamn day.
Along with another
Dust
one.
in the Wind.
There
Is
you
that a
go.
song?
That's a song that everybody knows. And
Maybe not a small hit. Like maybe it was a little.
there's a few people who probably know what we're talking about.
Okay, good. If you know that song,
Then you know Kansas.
then you know Kansas, but you don't know the right Kansas. But at least you know something by Kansas. Because, I mean, Portrait was on here. Like other songs were on here too. Besides that one, I can't remember right now.
I'm no port in a storm here.
'Cause I might not be sober enough to discuss some of those songs. Hopelessly Human's on here. Nobody's Home is on here. And none of those were really big hits.
Doesn't matter.
But the quality of the songwriting was sick. These guys were all on top of it. Steve Walsh was still in the band. Robbie Steinhardt, the original violin player, was still here doing exactly what he fucking did. Because guess what? No slouch. No fucking slouch. If you like violin, go look up some fucking Robbie Steinhardt shit. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but
And no one's probably going to do that.
look up violin tabs and learn it.
But if you're into it, this is a good place to go.
Yeah, learn it. Learn it. God, yeah. I don't even know what to say. I think last year they did an anniversary tour for this album.
Did they?
It's like probably 2017 for like the 40th anniversary
I didn't know that.
because they did an album before it that we're gonna get to in a minute. They did that album in its entirety on tour, and the following year they did this album in its entirety on tour with a bunch of their other hits. So you got a damn good show because they knew exactly what you wanted to hear. Well, maybe not you
No, I like it. They were a bit ahead of their time.
or me, but people liked it,
People like
and
it.
that's enough.
4 million.
Yeah, 4 million.
At least 4 million.
4 million people bought
At
that
least.
bought that
At least
square
4
thing
million.
I had with the round thing inside it.
In some form or another.
But
Then they stopped buying that and started buying the greatest hits.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and the greatest hits they are their greatest hits, but I've always fucking despised greatest hits collections.
Yeah, we could probably do an entire episode on how much greatest hit albums are not good for
So
anyone.
can we do a greatest hits and a greatest hits?
We can do that. We can do that.
There you go. See
You want to hear that? You guys want to know about
we're
that?
thinking of ideas. We fucking think of ideas when we're sleeping. That's how amazing this fucking channel is, and you don't even understand it.
We're spitballing here.
Why don't they understand it?
I don't know. Ask them.
Right.
Ask them.
Well, stop being stupid and understand some things
Comment.
about greatest hits albums. Cash grabs,
Totally.
radio sheep songs,
Mostly.
and then like a couple like deep cuts that they think you might be interested in, and then nobody gives a fuck and they skip them every time.
Maybe like a bonus track or something.
Yeah. There was a bonus track on the greatest hits. The Kansas greatest hits album had a bonus track.
Was it any good?
It was recorded like as a 3-piece Kansas or something.
Piece.
Like yeah, it was like the singer, the drummer, and maybe the guitar player, and they
Like a new track kind of
yeah
thing?
yeah
Really?
they record that was the final Kansas song
And was it terrible?
in '84, and they threw it in the greatest. It's fucking rotten. It's absolutely rancid. And it hurts your heart to hear.
They lure you in with, here's something new.
Yeah.
Along with everything that you think you love,
Yeah.
but you don't.
And they didn't even have the common decency to like put it at the end of the album so that you knew it was there. They mixed it right in with like their greatest hits and said, "Here, look at this fucking song
That's dumb.
that we recorded last week in a fucking parking lot of Arby's."
You have to understand that the actual members of Kansas probably had nothing to do with this decision whatsoever. This is a complete label
Yeah,
decision
oh yeah.
to do something like
I'm
this.
sure it probably was.
If you have it and you're disappointed, don't blame the
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
They just do what they're told.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. Especially these big bands. The big bands got hit the most, I think, with having to conform. Like,
Oh yeah, there was a time where the labels controlled everything.
yeah. Yeah. And
We're
it was
digressing a bit. Sorry, but
your name didn't mean anything. You could be a Kansas, you could be a Led Zeppelin, you could be a Deep Purple, whatever. There was always still some point where the label stepped in and said, "We want a hit record. We're sick of doing what you do. Give us a hit record."
Right.
And most of those records are shit.
right, because they thought they knew what everybody wanted to hear, and what do those people know about music?
Yeah, no.
Nothing.
They know how to
Absolutely
they know
nothing.
how to promote and market music because that's their job.
Oh, every one of them sold great, so they did their job.
but
They made money.
in their heads they think that dumbing a band's sound down
Is the way to.
is the way to get a hit. And in some cases, maybe it was. In some cases, maybe some of these bands got hits based on
It didn't.
dumbing their sound down.
It did not work.
But at the same time, it lost a lot of their core fan base.
Right.
Because
Right.
like fuck this 4/4 like pop sensitive garbage with like synthesizers.
It's an unfortunate symptom of the music industry at the time. Things are a little different now. Most people are releasing things under their own label.
yeah.
It's so easy these days.
Mhm.
Just hey, record something and throw it out there. You're gonna stream it on your app of choice,
Mhm.
and there you go. And I have no idea how that works or how bands make money, but
Oh, I have no idea.
apparently there's a.
That's why the
thing
music
for that.
industry is in such dire straits right now because bands can't make music now unless they're touring really. Like bands have to tour constantly to really
make any money.
make money because their albums aren't. Nobody's buying. Nobody buys physical albums anymore.
Nope.
They get them on Amazon or on a
Spotify.
Google Play, right.
Any of those type apps.
And so they're making a fraction of a penny on every play, and it's how do you survive now?
I mean, somebody's keeping track because you can look up and say, "Oh, who got the most plays
Mhm.
this week or this month or
Mhm.
this, whatever time period you want," and Spotify's top whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god, today I saw a band that we're probably going to get to eventually, a folk metal band called Trollfest.
Oh, we'll get to them.
They released a single
We'll get to
just
them.
yesterday actually, and on their post they linked Spotify, iTunes, not buy the album,
Yeah.
not buy the single.
Yeah.
Click here and
Yep.
listen. To it.
Click here.
Click here. Make it happen.
If you like our page,
Click here,
click here.
please.
That red button, that's where you click.
Right. So we're not that much different than them,
Yeah.
but no one's telling us what to do.
True.
Right.
And now we've discussed Point of No Return. This album behind us, behind Bernie's fur. There's an album back there.
What?
I burped.
I know.
Haha. On camera, I'm keeping it.
Okay.
Keeping it.
I'm
I'm
getting-
human. I'm only human, guys.
I'm getting whiplash from my hiccups.
You have hiccups?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so dumb. Who gets hiccups in the real world?
I think I broke this. Aha! Fixed.
Yet more technical difficulties, and we're gonna try and edit this in the best way possible so that it doesn't look absolutely ridiculous.
I'm not going to edit anything.
We hope you're still getting the point here. The albums that we love, the albums that are important for just, I mean, you couldn't do anything without stumbling over the tracks in this album for a couple of years when it was out. I mean,
Yeah,
it was huge.
Probably don't even know, and you did.
Right. It was huge. And we think you should buy it. Not the vinyl. Unless you want to. Go to eBay and get a fucking cool used vinyl, because that's what you want. That's what you want.
there's-
Not new vinyl.
Probably going to be a version of this that you can buy on eBay with a bit chewed up on one end. Probably from a dog.
Because I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna sell it after this video.
And then buy a
Yeah.
crisp,
yeah.
pristine version of
If-
the same thing.
If you want to donate to our show, I'll sell my dog chewed record to you. Send me your bids.
Now wait.
Starting at $450.
It's time out. So they're going to buy your record with the chewed up end
Yeah.
and donate.
Well, if they buy it, it's for me. If they donate, it's for the show.
But you're still getting monies.
Well, yeah, twice the monies. That's how I roll.
I have some stuff to sell too.
I gotta pay some bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my stuff to sell too. None of it's been chewed up by a
Like
dog.
a 1965 Barbie doll.
Barbie dog.
A fucking My Little Pony from the show thing.
I don't think. I
Like
have
three
that.
Ewok action figures.
Ewoks I have.
They're probably worth stupid money,
I
aren't
have
they?
loads of Ewoks.
Wow. You see what just happened there? The beer happened. So,
I wasn't drunk when I bought the Ewoks though.
well, you might have made a good choice. Because they're probably worth dumb money. They're worth more than this channel will ever be worth.
Right.
So-
So, when
so
we
good
go
job.
broke,
You can
I'm
sell your
going to
Ewoks.
start selling Ewoks.
And you can support us.
Right.
Not him, us.
So we can keep bringing you the content that,
Yeah, the amazing content.
that you deserve.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. We.
I just insulted them, didn't I?
If
That
anybody,
was an
if
insult.
anybody's
I'm sorry.
still here,
I'm
we,
sorry.
We probably.
That was
yeah.
probably an insult.
We fucked
You
up.
deserve better.
I'm sorry we fuck up so much.
You deserve better.
I'm sorry Bernie fucks up so much.
I think you helped.
Sorry he does that.
No.
Fucking Bernie. Guess what?
That's it.
1977's over.
Yep.
But this album's not. You can listen to this every day of the fucking week and you're still gonna love it as much as you did 40 years ago.
If you were alive.
If you were alive. If you're like one of our younger viewers who don't know what a record is, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Catch up, would you?
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Get with it.
I don't know. Go watch. Go look it up on fucking Yoku or whatever the fuck. What?
What's What's a Yoku?
I have no idea. I might have made that up.
He made up a platform.
We just created an entire new platform right now.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
good for us. Go to Yoku.
Copyrighted.
Listen to this album on Yoku.
Yoku.
and you're not gonna be let down. This album is fucking phenomenal. This is the peak of classic rock in America, I think.
Probably.
So
Probably.
you can't go wrong with it. Check it out. I'll leave a link for you down below. And we're gonna regroup and hopefully have no more problems with the fucking camera.
Moving right along.
And we're gonna move into the next album, and it's gonna happen after I drink this beer. Guess what this album is? It's not number 1, it's not number 5, it's not any number, because we didn't do that today. But this is still Leftoverture. This is the most, probably the most essential of Kansas' albums.
No doubt
This is
about
the one everybody fucking knows. Everybody knows it.
Because there's one song in particular on this album.
There's a
Yeah.
song that you might know.
Maybe a little bit.
A song you might know.
A little bit. If you don't know it, I don't even know why you're watching.
That's also true. Yeah. No, you fucked up. You fucked up with your day.
I mean, we're pretty much as metal as you're gonna find
Yeah. Oh yeah.
around these parts.
Probably around
And,
around these parts.
Around these parts. And there's
Dirty varmints.
one song in particular on this album that is, even to us, one of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that song?
That is Carry On, Wayward Son. That's on this album. That's it. This is where it happened.
It opens this album.
In the mid-70s when this came out?
Yep, 76.
76?
Yeah, it opened this album in a big fucking way. I mean, there's no one watching this right now who hasn't heard Carry On Wayward Son, who hasn't, like, if you play an instrument, you've probably tried to mess around with this and like noodle around with it
A
on
little
guitar.
bit. You probably did poorly at it.
Play like we always
You
did.
got it wrong.
Right.
You didn't play it right. You can't sing it. You can't play it.
Yeah.
You can't drum it.
It's on the radio every day.
I'm not much of a bass player myself, but I bet you can't play it.
No, you probably can't. No, they were. This was like the, I guess their peak really. Like Point of No Return definitely followed this album.
It was
had a similar
good follow-up.
right. It had a similar vibe.
Yeah.
And still had Dust in the Wind, and that probably blew away anything on this album as far as sales and whatnot.
Yeah, but this is a better album.
Yeah,
Carry On is a better song.
it's phenomenal.
And,
It's phenomenal.
I mean, for me personally, it's the best song they ever did. And it's
Definitely one of them.
a
Yeah,
lot better than a lot of songs anybody ever did.
that's true. This song should be up there with like the Hotel Californias
Easily,
and the
right
and
there.
the Zeppelin.
Not Stairway.
Yes,
Yeah, Stairway.
that song. Yeah,
Well,
you ever heard that song?
That-
That's another song.
that belongs. That
Well, like-
definitely belongs.
Yeah, like Carry On Wayward Son, I put up there with the most important and most recognized songs of the 1970s. You know, Bohemian Rhapsody, like songs like that. There's like these hints of genius that if a band could have followed everything they did with that song, they'd be the fucking greatest band of all time.
If only every song was Carry On.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah,
But
if
it's
Kansas
not,
was capable of
unfortunately.
doing that for like 30 years, then
It's-
it would have been great.
I guess it's human nature not to be able to repeat greatness on a regular basis like
Right.
that.
And none of those bands did either, because
No, nobody did.
I mean, as great as Zeppelin was after Stairway, and as great as the Eagles were after Hotel California, or the Who after
Pinball
like
Wizard.
Baba O'Reilly and the stuff. What?
Am I got the right band?
What happened?
I said Pinball Wizard.
Yes, Pinball Wizard.
Yes, that's them.
Man, you fucking nailed that. You nailed that. But I mean, like, I'm not putting that in. Any of these bands, I think a lot of '70s bands had like that that moment of genius where they stumbled on something that was fucking crazy.
I think they all made deals with the devil. Song.
Well, Hotel California definitely was a deal with the devil.
Had to be, because they never did anything even close.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And the Zeppelin had some great
No, Zeppelin's
songs.
different. They
Cashmere. I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of say stuff.
I mean, these guys have a lot of great songs too. Don't
Right?
get us
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, they have a lot of great
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah.
In my opinion, nothing quite measures up to Carry On, but
Mm-hmm.
but they have a lot of great songs. Unfortunately, a band like the Eagles, they had Hotel California and a bunch of songs you probably really like
I love the Eagles.
that I really don't.
I love the Eagles.
They couldn't figure out what they wanted to be.
I love the Eagles.
I know.
Not the fucking football team. I don't love that version of the Eagles.
I like
When they started playing football and shit.
They started playing football and they were not good at it for a long time.
Oh, they were good at it for 1 year in their entire career.
About 4 years.
And now what are they doing? What are they doing now?
Right now,
What are they doing now?
they're
Losing record?
they're better than both teams in Florida.
I don't really want to
Wait,
talk.
all three teams in
I
Florida.
don't really want to talk about that.
Okay, we're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that.
Right. Because
We-
he doesn't want to be wrong.
I'm never wrong. And
Yeah.
I'm certainly not wrong about this album.
No, this is good.
This is, you all bought it. You all bought it. In the 70s especially, if you didn't have this. 3D mode. What?
Here it comes.
Hooah!
And chewed up a little.
And
Double chewed.
the dog also attached his face hole to these corners here. Because that's my dog. But
He's going to put this one on eBay too.
this happened. Am I?
You said?
I don't want to sell this one.
Why
You
not?
ruined everything now. I don't want to sell that one.
You can buy a new one. A
keep it
fresh,
down.
fresh one.
Keeping that one. I don't want a fresh one.
Okay.
Fresh ones don't sound like original ones.
You can buy the original.
I can get like a
Someone else's
I can get like a mint copy, but it's gonna cost me.
That's true.
I do YouTube videos. I don't need fucking money.
You're not
I do this. This is what I'm doing right now. Look how much I suck at it. Like, who's watching this? Who's
No
paying
one.
me?
Nobody's paying us.
Exactly.
In fact, we're paying to provide this to you right now because, I mean, I'm 4 beers short of a case myself right at this point. How you doing?
I have, well, I don't know. There's some cans over here, and a bottle, and a squirrel. I don't know if the squirrel counts as part of my
You can't drink them.
thing or
You
not.
can't drink the squirrel. Ah, look who's petting the squirrel this time.
Sometimes you have to. It's furry.
Really comment a little bit on the fact that they had a habit of making up words.
Oh, they did. Oh,
Like completely
Oh,
made
yeah.
up words. Like they don't
Oh, yeah.
exist anywhere except on these albums and
yeah, yeah. Those albums didn't make the list, but Kerry Livgren, who is another one of the founding members, and a guitar god. Like Kerry Livgren's a monster, and certainly a songwriting monster. His lyrics are genius. Like the guy knows how to write a song, but he also knows how to make up words.
that don't exist anywhere.
Don't matter if you like it or not. The word's never going to show up in the song.
No.
He's going to name it some fucking goofy thing like X's, Y's, and O's and
He like-
umlauts.
He'd like to see the name
Yeah.
on the album cover, I guess,
Yeah,
or
basically,
on the
yeah.
back and the track listing.
Yeah.
And it's not a word. It's not a word.
Like Journey from Mariabron. I don't think Mariabron's a real place, but we're journeying from there. Balex's certainly not a thing.
Alexis.
Yeah, no, he makes up words. But he's also a genius songwriter.
So you can get by.
He wrote Carry On Wayward Son.
And that's good.
And that's not made up, no made up words. But that was his thing for a while, and it worked. And if you don't believe me, check out Proto-Ka. Proto-Ka. It means pre-Kansas.
Oh.
Kerry Livgren's, years before Kansas got together, he'd already written like some of their greatest songs. He'd already written them. They were already there. They were ready to go. And when a very early version of Kansas got together, they were like an 8-piece Kansas with a sax player and like they recorded their demo tapes in a fucking cave somewhere in Kansas because they wanted a certain sound.
I didn't know any of this.
The songs are amazing. And like 30 years or more after that demo album came out, like 'cause they threw the demo album out in the 2000s somewhere. They said, have some of this. Pre-Kansas, Proto-Ka, have some. The original band from like 1969 got back together and recorded 3 or 4 more albums
Really?
that
I did
were
not know that.
that were fucking amazing.
I
They
did
were
not know that.
fucking great albums.
There you go. You've learned something tonight. I learned
Yeah.
something tonight.
I learned something tonight because I didn't know I was going to say that. But Proto-Ka, I'll leave a link in the description and stuff because
I might have to check that out myself.
it's badass. It's badass.
How about that?
It was the birth of Kansas basically, and it's raw and rotten and grim and dirty and
It's pretty amazing.
like like Bernie, just in general Bernie,
Yeah. Dirty and raw.
like raw and grim.
And raw and grim. I am grim.
Are you grim?
I'm grim.
Okay. He's grim. And we're done. There it was. 1976, Left Overture. One of the most classic albums of the 70s. Period.
Yep. And that's it for the great stuff tonight. We got a couple of more to go.
Yep. We have
So stick around.
or don't, but please do.
Or don't. I only have 1 beer left, so we're gonna have to rush just a bit.
Gotta keep the lights on. So here is something else you need to know about. Guess what happened in 1980?
I have no idea what happened in 1980.
This album came out. Audio Visions, the year I was born.
Ah.
Audio Visions. And why is this an important album? Because it was the end of the classic lineup of Kansas. This was the end of it. And there's a reason. There's a reason behind that.
Please explain.
Because they sucked after. No. I mean, they like at this point. I mean, 1980. Like, you couldn't be Kansas into the 1980s without changing.
Again,
This album didn't.
times
Like,
changed, and
They stayed Kansas.
either you rolled with it or you didn't roll with it. They
They-
got it right a couple years later.
Right. And this is our honorable mention, by the way, in
Yeah.
case we forgot that part, because I'm not sober and I don't care. I don't care if you fucking like it, okay?
Yeah, we don't expect anybody to like really jump on this album and say, "Oh, this is great." No, this is it's good. Honorable mention.
I think it charted well.
They charted well like all the time except for the one.
That's true.
I mean, people like this band. They bought this band.
Because they're fucking good? Is that why, maybe?
Even when they were bad, people still said,
Even
"Hey,
when they're bad, they're good.
let's do this."
But this was the end of the classic lineup. I think it did okay. I think it did chart. I think there were a few singles on here, like "Hold On." I think was released as a single. Maybe "Relentless" was released as a single. And I mean, they're good tracks. They were still doing what Kansas did,
They still knew what they were doing.
but nobody else cared anymore. Like once they kind of blew their stack with "Dust in the Wind,"
Yeah.
it got weird after that. Like they were still writing really good songs, but everybody wanted the next acoustic finger picking exercise.
And they never really provided it.
No,
It never happened.
because I never wanted to be the same band over and over again.
And from a musician standpoint, that's smart. That's
Yeah.
what any of us would
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Who actually writes and records music. You don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. You want to do something different, and we're stubborn that way.
except the songwriting public or the song listening, the band, the what the fuck? The album buying public There's a thing. Whatever.
The people.
The sheeple that were buying albums at the time. I don't think this album was big enough on the radio at the time.
No.
With the singles they had to make the sheeple give enough of a shit about it to make it a classic Kansas album, and it really is. They still have longer songs and
yeah. Well, people don't like longer songs. I mean, there's an attention span thing that there's been studies.
Well, in that period of time, like once the 80s came on, that makes sense. In 1973, you could have a fucking 25-minute song on the side of a record and people ate it up. Once the 80s came along and new wave and punk, I guess, was still like the original like punk stuff.
Oh, like the 2.5 minute long.
Yeah, like
Did people get dumber in the 80s? What happened?
they did. I think they did.
It was drugs.
Well, drugs and
drugs.
dumbness.
Dumbness.
Just drugs and dumbosity. Yep, I made that word up.
It was people having kids on drugs. Right? That's what happened. They made dumb kids.
They made dumb kids.
Dumb kids who had more dumb kids. That's what happened. I'm convinced.
And then they became the cast of Hills Have Eyes. And then then we know where that went from there. But yeah, this album makes an honorable mention because it's still a great album. It's probably
It deserves to be known.
it's the last of the classic Kansas albums where people were still paying attention to what Kansas did. Because even though we liked a lot of the stuff that came after this more,
yeah.
I mean, obviously a lot more because this is
Yeah.
our honorable mention. It's still like hit on all levels that the original Kansas band was capable of doing.
It just might have been a little bit. They didn't change fast enough. This is probably where they should have started to update a little bit and get with the times.
Yeah,
Yeah. People didn't want it anymore.
yeah.
It's unfortunate because it's very good.
Yeah, they weren't. Again, it's one of those things where you have a really huge hit, and then everybody expects that from here on out. They want the same thing.
And you just don't follow it up right.
Well, it's not even so much that the band doesn't follow it up because the band isn't an artistic body. They do what they do,
Well, they're not trying to
but
please.
it's what those single buyers want to hear. And as soon as the band stops doing that,
they're done. They're out. Goodbye.
everybody loses interest. And that's a shame, because some of the greatest bands ever have had these wilderness albums, and this isn't so much a wilderness album, but they've had the wilderness albums where they were just lost and nobody cared. They were on independent labels.
Yeah.
Nobody was buying singles. Nobody was buying the albums. But once a lot of these bands gave up trying to please you, that's when they wrote their best material. Because they didn't give a shit anymore about what you fucking liked.
Yeah.
They wrote what they wanted to, and that's some of their greatest material. And I don't know if this necessarily fits quite into that mold,
It's right along there.
but it's that ugly decade transition, which we'll talk about every episode, because
Especially the ones that are as long lived
yeah,
as a band like this that spans like 40 years.
Yeah. yeah. Once you have to cross that decade barrier, and music shifts and different new genres come in.
Yep.
These old rock acts have to kind of try and fit into that somehow, and if they don't, they fail. The end.
And if
The
they
end.
do too hard, then we don't like them. We don't like them for trying too hard.
Right? Yeah, and it sounds forced.
It's almost a lose-lose
It sounds
situation for them. But some of them did it right. Like I mean, they certainly went into the '80s the right way,
right.
and right now they certainly went into the late
Yeah.
2000s the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So they're adaptable.
Yep.
They're doing the right thing. Just unfortunately, this didn't go the way It didn't happen.
No, it didn't. And it was the end of them. It was the end of them. They tried to record an album after this with the original lineup, and there are a few reasons behind why that album fell apart. Because there was a religious aspect to Kansas that maybe a lot of you didn't know. There's a religious kind of.
Yeah, well,
They wrote a lot of thinly veiled religious songs, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know if you didn't. Like,
we didn't tell you.
really pay. Yeah, maybe. If you didn't pay attention, you wouldn't know. But certain members of the band were fed up with that shit. They didn't want to deal with that religious aspect. They wanted to just write rock music.
right.
And those members left. And that was the end of it. Like,
There you go.
that was the end of Classic Kansas. And this is the end of Classic Kansas. So I guess we'll give you the end of Kansas in any fucking way whatsoever. In 5 seconds?
Sure.
3 seconds?
2.
1 second?
And
0 seconds! Our dishonorable mention, 1983's Drastic Measures. And let me tell you, son of a bitch.
better you than me this time.
Let me, God damn it.
I got 20 more.
I'm gonna hide behind the album cover, okay?
Okay.
Let me, oh God, look at that. I fucking ruined everything. Let me tell you why this album is bad.
Keep it up here.
Go
ahead.
Let me tell you why this album's bad. There's a bazooka on the cover, and dumb letters up here that are doing things, and then dumb letters down here that are doing things, and then dumb faces all over it. And if you open it up, there's dumb music inside. Did you enjoy doing what you just did?
That's fun. That's fun.
I'm so sad now. Not only is this
I speak in your voice.
not only is this not the good album,
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
but you also you oh God, you're right. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Alright.
Alright, let's
But hey, guess what?
be serious for a second.
At least this album was factory sealed when I bought it.
Yeah.
I didn't pay the $8 on the cover.
And there's no chew marks in it.
Nope, this one's pristine. So guess what? The worst Kansas album of all time that I own,
The one that the dog didn't want to chew.
also the one that is mint condition. Look at it, right?
Even the dog.
Right?
Even the dog didn't want to chew on that
No,
because it
No.
tastes about as bad as it sounds. No,
I-
actually, it's not bad. Let's be honest.
No, it's not good.
They've been consistent. They've been pretty consistent. This is probably the worst of the bunch, sure. But there's actually a few good tracks on this one too.
there's a couple of really good tracks. Mainstream is probably one of my favorite songs from this album, and was basically Kerry Livgren's like swan song in this band. He didn't want to be doing the kind of pop rock stuff they were doing, so he wrote a song that basically made fun of the band going mainstream and doing all that hokey bullshit they
They
did.
didn't have a choice.
It didn't work. It didn't work, and they had hits. There were hits of the Fight Fire with Fire,
Yeah,
the first single.
yeah.
I think that was a pretty modest hit. They did pretty good with that. It may have been on MTV, early MTV.
It would have had to be early MTV because MTV just started when
Right.
that album came out.
I think they had a video for this that was a pretty big hit, and the song was a hit, so there was some backing there. It was a very different Kansas, because even though they ended the classic lineup on an honorable mention note, but not absolutely essential.
No.
They did an album in between those two albums where Steve Walsh quit the band, and Robbie Steinhardt, their violin player, had like 3 fucking notes on the entire album.
So that was the end of that.
So in between, Robbie also left, and then now it's Kansas without violin.
Yeah, things happened. It was
And you might not like violin. You might not even. You don't have to like violin, but Kansas is not Kansas without that member, that aspect of what they do.
yeah.
It's not the same band anymore.
It's there. Should be there.
Not the same band. And the singer, as good as he was no Steve Walsh. Like that the original band had, there was magic there. Like they tapped into something for a long time.
I think they were just trying to make something happen under bad circumstances, and
They're just trying to carry on a band, I think.
they didn't want to not do what they do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why would you not want to keep going when you were Kansas? So,
Who's going to pay attention to
so this is what they did. They
the
did
members of Kansas if they went out on their own and tried to like form
Right,
their
let's
bands?
rename it.
Like, you have to be Kansas.
Who's
That's
gonna care? Nobody's gonna care.
that's your money. That's where your money is.
Right.
You got to do it. And they tried, and they failed. For the most part, they failed. We've been a lot harsher on dishonorable mentions. Not that album,
Oh, we didn't switch it.
because we did not switch that. Did you ever see a fat man get up? Watch this.
Bow tie.
It's
Red.
a very red bow tie.
Red bow
also,
tie.
it's a very red bow tie. But this is the album we're talking about, not the previous
I mean, it's
album.
called Drastic Measures, but they didn't really take any drastic measures whatsoever to make this very good.
No. Unless the drastic measure meant let's change our entire sound to please
Everyone who's not
early '80s sheeple.
people who actually care about good music.
But again, we were a lot harsher with our first episode when we did Chameleon by Halloween.
Because that's horrible.
And
That actually is horrible.
I think we were pretty harsh with Sabotage when we did Fight for the Rock.
It was less horrible than Chameleon.
And then this one,
Still pretty horrible.
it's not a great album, but it's still very listenable. There are great songs on it. It's
I'd
just
rather listen to this than either one of the dishonorable mentions of metal bands that we did previously.
I agree with that.
And this is not a metal album by any stretch of imagination,
no.
and they're not a metal band by any stretch of imagination. But you know, they influenced a lot,
Yeah,
so they count.
these guys were, they were, and they still are kind of just a part of like culture. Like they're part of pop culture still, because they were so fucking huge.
Yep.
And they kind of never went away so much. They were always there in one way or another. They constantly toured.
In a lot of ways, they kind of got better over the years. I mean, they had their heyday in the 70s.
Mhm.
They kind of dropped off in the 80s, and I think they have one album in the entire 90s.
Yep, one album.
And then
Well, they had 2 albums, but one of them was like a rehash of their old songs, like a symphony orchestra.
Yeah.
There were a couple new songs on it, but we don't rate stuff like that.
that's not a true release.
Yeah,
of new
if
material.
a band just goes back and re-records their music, we don't rate that. We don't
Nah.
look at that as a thing,
No,
because
it happened, but in live albums, we're not going to do that. They did
Right,
like
right.
a billion of those.
right. Generally, whenever a band re-records their classic material, especially 20, 30 years later, it's not going to be as good as it was on the albums
No,
that we
I
loved
mean,
in the first place.
We'll listen to it, and if it is better, then we'll use that.
Yeah.
Because we actually want these bands to succeed,
Yes. Yeah.
and we want to give everything they do a glowing review, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
But so yeah, if they redo something that's old, we're gonna take the redo version if it's better,
Mhm.
and that's what we're gonna rate.
Yeah. In the case of Kansas,
Not so much.
it didn't work so much.
Not so.
They were good. They weren't the originals, and the originals are what you want. When you want to get into this band, you're gonna go into the albums we talked about, and you're gonna look through the deep cuts in these albums, and hopefully you fall in love with Kansas like I did. I mean, me and Bernie come from kind of different backgrounds when it comes to a lot of what we like about music, but I think even Bernie can
This is
really
not-
appreciate what this band brought to the table.
Kansas is definitely not my speed overall, but now that, like I said before, I've had a chance to go through the entire discography, listen to every single song they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. They're good. They deserve their place.
Yeah.
They earned it.
Yep.
And they did write one of the best songs ever written.
They did.
So
They did.
They get props for that.
And maybe on their next album, they'll write another song that is a genius gem.
Maybe.
Who
they,
knows?
They have the singer for it. The new guy's really good.
He's fantastic.
He's really
He's
good.
fantastic. Their live shows have really benefited from this guy. The album was super solid, and people paid attention again.
Yep.
So I think it's kind of we're kind of at that point in time where not only people that are our age, but even like younger people who are going to these shows with their parents or something like that. They're starting to hear these bands and realize the merit and what these bands brought to the table.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's why bands like Kansas are never going to die. They're going to be around until they stop being a band, and that's it. And people are going to still go and want to hear what they want to hear, and they're going to sell out shows all over the place.
Still doing a great job. So, kind of in conclusion here, go get their 70s stuff.
Yeah.
That's their heyday.
Yep.
That's where the best is at.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of skippable things in the middle there.
There is.
The ones we mentioned that happened in the 80s, go ahead and, take a look at those.
Mhm.
And then you can skip right ahead to 2016 because that's really good too. And that's where you want to be. And is there something in the pumpkin?
We
have
can
not.
never get rid of the pumpkin.
We neglected Bob all night. Except for the one time he hit him.
You can go out and you can buy all the albums separately if you want. Or Booga Booga.
Compact discs.
Whatever that means, you can get, and I think this is actually somewhat rare now, which maybe you won't want to buy this because I think last time I saw it was like going for like $150 or something.
There's a lot of albums in there.
But it was expensive. But I'm going to just show you real quick. If you open this up, all those, pretty much all the albums we discussed, and a lot we didn't. From 1974 to 1983, the classic lineup, they released this box set, they remastered every album for this box set, and that's the only place you're really going to get the remasters, and they sound phenomenal, and have some of that. I'll put that in the link below too. Go find it. If you don't find it, I don't fucking care, to be
eBay.
honest.
eBay.
I do care.
Is it on eBay? I mean, can you actually buy that? Can you go to Amazon and find that, or is it like out of print?
You can go to Amazon and find it, but I think it's very pricey now for some reason.
So it's like secondary, third.
You could probably
vendor kind of thing.
you could probably get it through secondary markets and it'll be good to go.
Go
But
to eBay.
you might
Buy
pay
it
a
on
little
eBay.
bit for it. If you're a new Kansas fan and you want to check out like 10 of their albums all remastered in pristine condition, try and track it down, get a good deal on it.
If you want to actually own the physical copy, if not, then just do your Spotify thing, or
That hurts so much.
all those other
That really hurts.
things that
That
people
hurts.
do now.
It hurts.
I do it. I'm a culprit.
It hurts. It hurts my soul. There's a song playing behind us now, but we're not going to pay attention to that shit.
And neither should you.
Because guess what, Amazon fucking algorithms and scraper thingies? You're going to hear this song playing in the background, and then Steve Walsh is going to come to my house and fucking sue me. So before Steve Walsh shows up and sings poorly in his old man voice, we're going to end this shit right now. We did some Kansas for you. We did the good, the bad, the ugly, or me, whatever. But we did it. We did it.
What just happened? What just happened? Did that happen? Did that happen?
You happened
I didn't happen.
with your hair thing.
I've been here all night.
All right, so we're gonna say farewell to Kansas and Bernie's hair extensions.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Your hair extensions.
It's not extension.
I liked it. But we're glad you showed up again. I hope you guys are still watching because we're still having a blast. We love doing this for you. We hope you like watching us be ridiculous.
Come back next week. We're gonna do another one.
We're gonna have something next week. We're not sure what it is yet. We're pretty sure.
We have
what
a
it is
pretty
yet.
good idea what we're gonna do. We're not gonna tell you because it might change.
No, but it will be more metal than this. We're gonna go back and
Yeah,
do a
we're
little-
gonna dive back into metal. So.
Yeah, we're gonna do some metally things.
So if you came here for metal and you didn't get it tonight, we'll get you back.
yeah,
Don't worry.
we're coming back. Come back next week with some metal. So thanks again. Subscribe, like, do all those sexy things that you YouTubers do.
Comment,
That too.
even if it's bad.
Yeah, we don't care.
I mean, we know we're horrible.
We really don't care. We have a fucking plastic pumpkin on the table. That's how much we don't care.
Bob,
So thanks. Thanks for tuning in.
Bob, pumpkin.
We're gonna keep drinking now, and we're gonna be back at you next week. So
Thank you.
check it out.
Good night.